And his research was on, I don't remember the exact title, but what he had discovered as a minister, he said, we do a really good job in the church of communicating what you don't do. And, you don't have, sex before marriage. You don't do this, you don't do that. He said, we do a good job of that. Not anything wrong with saying you don't do these things. But he said, we just really don't do a very good job of how to. Because see, he's seeing the same thing we're seeing when people come to you and say, we just don't communicate. Or they come to you and say, we just don't have time together, we don't manage our time very well. Or they come to us and they have no really compatibility or pleasure or satisfaction in their intimate relationship. Why? If you know what the relationship is supposed to be, if both of you have communicated those needs and those expectations, those pleasures, why wouldn't you? Well, they hadn't always been communicated. Don't have time, we don't want to take up Denise's time explaining all that, but one of the somewhat amusing things when he was doing his research, he put this questionnaire online, and he was really shooting for the 18 to 25, kind of the college age group, to say, what have you experienced in the church? What do you know before they get married? Kind of say, where are we? So parents could kind of know what kind of job we've done of teaching them what that relationship's about. Not just to avoid certain things, but what are they anticipating? What are they saving themselves for? If we say, save yourself for marriage, what does that mean? What are we communicating? What are both of them expecting? But anyway, he put out his questionnaire and he got very few of that age group. Now they're online all the time, so they saw it, but thought, ooh, I'm not going there. Somebody's trying to trap me and they're going to tell my parents. I ain't filling out that survey. But he got a large group from, 40 to 50. Kind of insightful of what they didn't know when they married. He got one man. Do you remember what age he was? He was like, like up in his 80s. He filled out the survey. He said, that the way I advertised it, really can't use the information I got from him, but kind of fascinated to read his answers to the questionnaire. He said he's going to do further research and include other ages and just say, what has every generation learned about the intimate relationship? And where'd you get the information? You learn it yourself? Your parents teach you? You learn it in a church environment? Learn it from your friends? How'd you learn it? You see, if anybody ought to be teaching children, young folks, what intimacy is all about, it ought to be their parents. But when we don't have an intimate relationship that's healthy, that's gratifying, what are you going to teach them? Kind of what you experience. Even if you don't verbalize it, they see it. And maybe you just in passing say things that indicate, don't worry about that part. That's not really an important part of marriage. Again, you don't have to be graphic or you don't have to be crude, but the Bible describes it as beautiful, doesn't it? We're going to talk about that when we separate. We'll just make sure we had the definition together. Here's what we need to all make sure that we understand. That, first of all, the priority has to be God. He designed it. That's where we started last night, you remember? We went back to Genesis chapter 2. God made us. God made Adam and Eve. He had a design for them. He put the information within them that they needed to be able to be right with Him in their relationship and then have a right relationship to each other. And we didn't talk about this last night, not our purpose to spend much time on it today, but do you know where Satan started in order to remove them from God? He started in their relationship with each other. Who do you have a conversation with? Not with Adam and Eve. Who do you have a conversation with? Eve. See, God had placed them together. He intended for them to face things together, to decide things together, to function together. And Satan separated them. So you and I can't afford to go through our relationships and our marriages and our lives without doing it together. Once we give birth to this relationship, we have to do things together. If we ever start separating ourselves from each other, that's when Satan has conversations with us. And that's when we're the weakest. Together, he's provided opportunity for us to survive some of those temptations. Then when God's in his rightful place and we set that priority, and there's certain passions that he placed within us that should only be gratified within the marital relationship. But they are there, and they need to be gratified. He put them there to be gratified. But he needs to be the one who designed it. And there's that intimacy. Not only passion, but intimacy means that there's this closeness. If passion's not restrained, if passion's not channeled, then there can't be intimacy. Someone else is taken advantage of. That's not intimacy. In our society, we might call that a lot of things, but we don't call it intimacy. We might call it things that would be problematic in a lot of different definitions. And it's all kind of held together. God's the pinnacle focus. He's the designer. He's the one that directs the relationship. And then when we give birth to it, there's a commitment made. And that commitment holds and regulates the passion and dictates the terms of intimacy. All right, is this where we divide? Yep. All right, we're going to let the ladies kind of dismiss, and while they're leaving, I'll remind you that these are issues that often come to us.